All right, good morning, everybody. It is 10:30. I see people are still entering the room, so we'll slowly get started. I'll go over a couple of things for the workshop today. First of all, this is Starting Your Own Business, presented by Al Morrison. He's with the Akron SCORE chapter. Second of all, you will get a copy of the recording as well as the slides from this presentation in an email from me later today or early tomorrow morning. Also, you can ask questions, so you can type it in the chat. You can do the Q&A. You can type there, or you can raise your hand. Usually when Al does a presentation, he will pause periodically to answer questions, and then also we'll have time set aside at the end to address anything you need. So with that, Al, are you ready?
I am ready.
Uh-oh.
They're
Al, your
mine.
volume. Wait, let me check my volume actually.
I'm sorry.
There you are. Okay, we
Here
didn't
I
hear
am.
you at first.
Yep, here I am. Okay, you're all mine. So, welcome to Starting Your Own Business. If you haven't attended a SCORE webinar, well, welcome for the first time. If this is your more than one, welcome back. As Laura said, we'd love to address questions. If you put them in the chat, when you think about them, we'll get to them at breaks as we go along the way. This morning, we're going to talk about SCORE, just so you know who you're talking to and what we do for a living. Talk about why small business is important. Where do you start? Business planning, the financials, and what do you do next? SCORE is a nationwide organization. It's a partner of the SBA, and we were formed in 1964. Today, there are about 10,000 volunteers like myself spread over 200 chapters across the country. We are only US based. Locally, there's about 40 of us, and we're serving the Summit, Medina, Wayne, Portage, and recently Mahoning counties. And since we started in 1965, we've helped over 50,000 clients in one shape or another in their business, from just answering a question to long-term relationships to help them grow their business. Our mission is to help small businesses. That's what we're all about. And we do it through mentoring, one-on-one mentoring and education. Our vision is that every person, every business will have the support they need to thrive. That's a bold vision. We've been at it since 1965. And as I think that's about our 60 years in business. We haven't got there yet, but we're working on it. As I said, we do two things. We do one-on-one mentoring, counseling, advising, consulting, whatever term you like best. I happen to like coaching best because that's how we operate as your business coach. The coaching we do is free, it's confidential between you and your business advisor, mentor, or coach. And if you have a question, we'll answer it, and that may be the extent of our relationship. But you may be starting a business and we work with you for years. Either one works. We also do workshops, education as you're in your part of one right today. In fact, you're part of the first one, starting your own business. But we do business planning and marketing and pricing and many things. So I would encourage you to check our website out, which is akron.score.org, to see what our current schedule is. And you don't need to write that down because, as Laura said, you're going to get a copy of this later today or tomorrow. If you want to schedule a mentor, you can go to akron.score.org. You can call our office. Either one works. So why is small business important? Let's talk about the facts. First fact is there's over 27 million small businesses in the US, and way over 500,000 new businesses start each year in the United States. So it's an important economic engine. 99.8% of all businesses are small businesses. So that says only 2 in 1,000 businesses are the big guys. The rest are us little guys. It represents half of all goods and services. Maybe the most important thing, though, is that last bullet point. That small businesses create over 75% of new jobs. So where are the new jobs in the US coming from? Small business. Where's new jobs coming from in your area of the world? Small business. So that's why we believe it's such an important engine for economic growth. Small business means risk. I'm sure you've heard that after a couple of years, most of the businesses that start up are gone. That's a true statistic. So there's a certain amount of risk involved. But one of the things we like to think is that with a business advisor, business coach, you will be successful. Why might that be? Well, think for a minute about the wagon trains. Way back, you learned in school about the wagon trains that started out in the East and were heading for California. Did some research. What I found out is every wagon train that made it to California, every single one had a guide, had a coach, had an advisor, someone to help them navigate the risks, someone to help navigate the hills and the valleys and the mountains and the water and the streams. And that's exactly what your business advisor, your SCORE coach will do for you. They will help you navigate the difficult startup or running or growing of your business, because most of them have done it before in one form or another. So why is a guide to get you to California successful? Because he's been there before. He's done that route. He knows where the places are, how to cross the mountain, how to get over the rivers. So he knows that. That's what your guide does with SCORE. Why do businesses fail? Well, number one, they probably don't have a guide. Number two, they don't have the experience necessary. So without a guide and without the experience, can you imagine taking your wagon train all by yourself out to California? Probably not. And maybe the owner or manager doesn't know how to manage tasks or manage others. And he's just like, I'm going to get on my wagon, but I'd never driven a wagon before. I don't know how to drive a wagon. Well, that would be kind of silly. Underestimating what the costs are of the business. And again, your business advisor will help you make sure that you don't underestimate the costs. And really, the bottom line of all of these is you run out of money. And once you run out of money, you're out of business. But the upside, which is your future, is a lot of reasons to enjoy it. Just in passing by, I own 4 small businesses and I love it. I think it's a lot of fun. You get to be your own boss. So you decide what you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to do it. You're probably going to work harder than you've worked ever before. But when you're working hard, you're increasing your profits, the money that goes in your pocket, not somebody else that puts money in their pocket and kind of gives you what's left over. Your earnings, your growth, you're not limited because the guy above you isn't going to retire. You are the guy above. New ventures, growing a business is exciting. I talked to one of my clients yesterday, and for the first time in her life, she bought her car for cash. Went down and paid for her car in cash. She was in a wreck, lost the other one, but that's not the point. Is she said, I have never felt so strong and so independent as when I bought my last car for cash. And running a business is challenging. It's a lot of fun. So where do you start? Most important thing is finding a business that's right for you. What makes it right for you? One, it's going to be something you like to do, want to do, and are pretty good at it. Something you're excited about. You have a passion for it. You want to do it. You like doing it. The business has to meet whatever goals you have, income goals, retirement goals. Maybe you're just in business for spending money. That's fine, but it has to meet your goals, whatever those are. It has to use your experience. You have to be experienced in what you're doing. So my example is I've been eating in restaurants most of my adult life, but I couldn't run a restaurant because I don't know anything about cooking, meeting planning, all of that. So it would be silly for me to start a restaurant because I don't have any experience there. But if you've got a lot of experience, then that's a great way to start your business. It also needs to be one that's needed. That's where your business advisor, your SCORE coach comes in. Let's talk about how that business is needed. And as we get to the business planning section, we'll talk about some of that. Also, with the help of your advisor or even the quiet of your own mind, find out where you're strong and where you're not. Identify your strengths, and that's where you should focus what you're doing. In areas where you aren't so strong, get help. So, for example, I don't do my own taxes. I could. Take me a long time, but I could. I'm not an accountant. but that wouldn't be necessarily a good use of my time. So I have my accountant do my taxes every year. I have a financial planner because that's an area where I'd like some advice. I've got a lawyer, I've got an insurance agent, I've got a banker. So I have all of these things, which are areas where I choose not to have any focus, or whether I just can't do it. So just do that to yourself. Say, where am I really strong? If you're good with the numbers, you want to keep your own books, great. If you're not good with the numbers, then maybe you should get a bookkeeper. Do research. Research is really important on your business. A lot of ways to do it, a lot of resources to do that, but research is important because it helps you decide if this is a business that you should be in. So one of my favorite examples is an individual who's going to build a storage facility. I'm sure you've seen them. They're little garages off the side of the road. You key in your code, you drive in, you unlock the padlock, you open up your garage door, you put your stuff in there. Stuff that you can't fit in your attic or your garage or your basement or wherever you're going to store it. So this is offsite storage, and there's a lot. So he was going to build one of these. He had the money to do it. He'd inherited some money, so it sounded like a good idea. So he decided to do some research, and his research was to look within a 5-mile radius and decide how many of these were around to see if the world needs another storage facility. So he did. And boy, they were all over the place. Around the corner, up the street, there were literally, I won't say hundreds, but at least 100 or more within that 5-mile radius. So the next research question is, do we need another one? And so the question we crafted was ask one question. Do you have space available? And call 5 or 6 or 7. So he did. And if the answer was no, we're full, sorry, then that says the world needs another storage facility. But that's not what happened. But every single one of the ones he called, they said, oh, we got space. Do we have space? You want big ones, little ones, small ones, medium ones? We got them. In fact, if you come in today, we'll give you the first month free. Please, please come in because I got lots of space. So does the world need another storage area in that storage facility in that area? Probably not. You could build it, but then how do you compete? You compete on price. And that's not the way to really make money, is to compete with 100 other competitors on price. So he took his money and invested it someplace else. So with the help of your SCORE coach or any other coach you can get, do your research, do your homework. So what should the legal structure of your business is? And when I was a kid, I had a lemonade stand, sat in front of my house. I sold lemonade and put the money in my pocket. Nobody knew the difference, but nobody really cared. But as you're getting in business as an adult and wanting to make much more money than I made on my lemonade stand, you're going to want to have a legal structure. And as you think about your legal structure, there are only 2 things that matter. Legal liability, in other words, if the wheels come off the bus, who has to pay, and how do you pay your taxes? There's only 2 questions you ask, and there's only 2 legal forms. There's the personal ownership, which looks like a sole proprietorship or a general partnership or a corporation. And there can be the LLC or limited liability company or the S Corp or the C Corp. Those are the only 2 things that matter when is taxes and liability. So how's that work? I had a client who was a piano teacher, and she would go teach your child piano in your living room on your piano. Nothing going to go wrong there. So she formed a sole proprietorship. And after a couple of years, she found out that she had a lot of customers, and she could do better if she brought them to her home, save all that travel time, right? Rather than going to them, let them come to you, which means that now they're going to take piano lessons in your living room on your piano, walking up your slippery, icy walk in the winter, tripping on your mat in the front hall. And now we have some legal liability. So she formed an S corporation, and she's fine, has never had a problem. So that's the legal structure. So I'm going to stop, take a breath, take a sip of coffee, and see if we have any questions in the chat.
All right, everybody, you can go ahead and type in your question in the Q&A or the chat, and we'll wait a minute. Okay, why would she choose an S corp over an LLC?
The S corporation has a couple of advantages. uh, with an LLC, in order to add owners or members, you have to file with the state. It's a little cumbersome, but not a big deal. With an S corporation, what you've done is sold stock. So you can buy and sell that stock, which is significantly easier. As an LLC, you are an owner or a member, as it's called. You're not an employee. You can't be an employee. If for some reason, and I don't know what that might be, you wanted to be an employee, you could form an S corporation, be an employee as well as an owner. I've run the numbers a couple of times, and there's very little advantage to doing that, but you might want to do that. But there's ultimately, at the bottom line, there's no difference in liability, and there's no difference really in the amount of taxes you pay. And so for the complexity of the LLC or of the S corporation, I probably wouldn't do it.
All right.
If you're interested in much of the difference, we have a whole webinar devoted to that. Exactly what is the difference and why would you do one versus the other? So, one example is with the LLC, you must be U.S. residents. The same with the S corporation. So if you want to have owners that are outside of the U.S., you can't do it. So there are various reasons. So find our website, akron.score.org, check for legally structuring your business, and we'll answer all of those questions in a lot more detail. Or get yourself a SCORE coach, and they'll answer them for you. A lot of opportunities, a lot of options here for you to get your questions answered.
Okay, next up, if you are a disabled veteran rated at 100%, can you own or start a business?
Yes. There is absolutely no restriction on who can own a business other than you have to be a legal resident of an LLC. If it's sole proprietorship, then there's no restriction at all. I was working with some incarcerated individuals yesterday, and the attraction to them is to own a business. They don't ask you any of those questions. As far as the state of Ohio is concerned, they just need your name, address, and that's all. They don't really care who you are. They don't ask anything about anything else about you. So if you're totally disabled, you can still start a business. There's no reason why you shouldn't. Absolutely no reason. It said it's starting it up is the same for you as anybody else. So it's easy peasy. Last time one of my clients did it, it took them under 20 minutes. So it's not that difficult.
Next, well, then they ask, how can SCORE help achieve this goal? Is it a VA program? SCORE is not a VA program.
We take all comers, if that's what you're asking. We really, if you want to start a business, we help you, and we do it for free, and we do it confidentially. We don't care if you're tall or short. We just don't care. We'll help you.
Is it generally advisable to start as a sole proprietorship or maybe LLC until there's either income or other justification that warrants the overhead of forming an S corp?
The answer to that is I don't see any benefit in starting as a sole proprietorship. Or the LLC costs you $99. So it's not that expensive. It gives you all the protection you need. And unless at some point you find out that there's really a good reason to form an S corp, and I would think long and hard about what that reason might be. I don't see needing anything beyond your LLC.
Um, let's see. Would a benefit of being both an owner and employee be workers' compensation if you're injured and can't work?
Uh, I don't know the answer to that. That's a very good question. Uh, if you're working in the business, then I don't know. I should know that, but I don't. I apologize. Great question. I'm going to have to go research that. Other questions?
Can you have an LLC in another state and move to Ohio?
Yes. Yes.
If your LLP partnership, can you switch to an S corp or will you have to register with the state again?
You can't switch them. You have to register with the state again and then essentially defunct the old legal form. There's no way to convert from one to the other.
All right, and this is probably a question for a different workshop. What if I don't have funding out of my own pocket to start a business?
That's definitely part of another workshop. Or spend some time with your core advisor about what the options for you are uh, in terms of startup monies, which are really hard to come by. Because you might get some investors, you might get some uh, support from family, friends.
Can you change the name of an existing LLC to a new name? If yes, are there costs associated with doing that?
You cannot. You can't change the name. You can start another one with a different name, but you can defunct the old one, but you can't change the name because that's the legal name in the state in which you're registered, and you can't change it because everything that goes along with it, including the employer identification number, is tagged to that name. So it's non-transferable.
All right, I think we're all caught up.
Okay. Let me answer that question a little differently than asked. If you want a different name for your business or an additional name, you can use a doing business as name. In other words, you have the parent company, but it's doing business as whatever that secondary name would be. They're legally tied together, they're tax-wise tied together. You just have a different name under which you're doing business. Is another way to accomplish what it sounds like you might be wanting to do. So, where do I go from here? Well, I've found a business I really like. I'm really passionate about it. I understand where my strengths are. I'm ready to form my business, ready to start it. The bottom right-hand corner is a website. Again, you'll get these slides later, but you can answer things like, do I need a license? And if so, what do I need? I can register your name. You can find out what the legal requirements are for employees. You can register with the Ohio Department of Taxation for sales tax if you need it. And so it's a wealth of information. So I would check that out. I would also recommend that you have a team of support professionals, not on the payroll, but in your phone, or if you're old fashioned, in your Rolodex. People you can count on to ask you a question. So for tax questions or money questions, you might have a CPA, accountant, or bookkeeper. Legal questions, you might have an attorney. Insurance agent for your business insurance, you might have a banker for bank accounts, credit cards, things like that. If you're going to be anywhere near IT or computer, you want to maybe a web designer for you, and other specialists. And last but not least, mentors and advisors. I like SCORE because we're confidential and we're cheap, like we charge zero, but you're welcome to have anybody provide you advice that you'd like. But again, like those wagon trains going out west, If you want to get there, it's a good idea to have somebody that's been there before and done that. So get yourself a coach or a guide. As you think about starting your business, I'm a big fan of starting your business in your house. Use your dining room table or spare bedroom uh, as your office, because you're already paying rent. If you decide to get another office or lease another office, that's expenses that maybe you don't need. Uh, if you're going to do that, if you're working in your office on your dining room table, nobody cares. But if you're going to do something like park equipment in your front yard, because you're in the landscaping business, for example, you need to check with city zoning to see if they care. Uh, One individual was going to build a little outbuilding to put her business in that little outbuilding. I know in the city in which I live, you're only allowed one. So they already had one, so that would be two. So it would be forbidden by the city. So she checked with her zoning folks, and lo and behold, they said, we don't care. You want to put two or three out there? Well, it doesn't matter. You know, we're very rural. We're fine with that. But always check with zoning. Your homeowner's insurance, your car insurance, your renter's insurance may need a rider. And I say may because, for example, if you're using your car to make money, and that's the differentiator, if you're using it to make money, then you need a rider. What does make money mean? It doesn't mean you're driving to a customer, driving out, whatever you're doing. It means delivering flowers. So if you're using your car to deliver flowers or deliver equipment or pick, just stuff that is you're making you money. So if you drive somebody to the dentist's office in your personal car and you charge them for that, then your current auto insurance won't cover it. You need a rider. The same way, you can have your home-based business, you're working out of your dining room, that's fine. But if you decide that you're going to do hair, you're going to have a hair salon in your kitchen, then you're using your kitchen to make money, and therefore your homeowner's insurance doesn't cover that. So you want to check with your insurance agent to make sure that's it. If you're going to have a home-based business, also, do you want customers coming to your house? Do you want employees coming to your house? Do you want a steady stream of deliveries coming to your house? You may not be a problem. And if you really have detailed questions, the IRS publication 587 will answer all those questions in great detail to make sure that you're not in trouble with the IRS. All right, let me stop again, ask if there's questions.
All right. Go ahead, guys, type in any questions you have. Let's see. I answered that one. What is the process of defunction?
I know there's a technical term for that, but I don't remember what it is. You go back to the Secretary of State's website and you find your company and you essentially close it down. You say, we no longer want to do business, and you close it down. There's no charge for that. It's free. It's easy to do. I've only had a couple of clients do it, and it's 10 minutes at the outside.
Can you add a DBA?
Yes. Under your LLC, you can add a DBA anytime you want. You can add them as many as you want. I think it takes another $39 to register that second name. But you can have two or three if you'd like. So I could have, for example, Al's Holding Company, and I could have underneath that Al's Holding Company doing business as Al's Shoes. I could have a second one would be Al's Business doing business as Al's Socks. So I have a couple like that. And the two names don't have to have Al in it. They can be completely independent names. But what happens is all the business you do with the DBA for tax purposes rolls up into the parent company, the parent LLC.
All right, can you get funding for an LLC that's in another state, but you currently live in Ohio?
Uh, where you get the money, the state could care less. Uh, so if you form an LLC in the state of Ohio and your Uncle George lives in Florida and Uncle George gives you $1,000 to get started, they could care less. So it really doesn't matter where that funding comes from. Ultimately, it comes from you as the, because you're the owner. So the money comes from you to the business because you can't have stockholders because you have to be an owner. You can't be a stockholder. So yeah, where the money comes from doesn't matter.
How many DBAs can you have with one LLC?
I've never found that there's a limit to them. So if you want to have 10, that's fine. It just costs you $39 to register it.
If you do a DBA under parent LLC, if something were to happen with the DBA, would it also affect the parent LLC?
Yes, because they're tied together. So let me take the example of Al's holding company doing business as Al's Shoes. So one of my shoe customers trips because the shoelace was untied, breaks their leg, and thinks that it's my fault. So they sue Al's business doing business as Al's Shoes. They sue Al's Shoes, but it rolls up to the parent company. But remember that parent company is a corporation, so you're protected. That's the firewall between you and the outside world. So they can get to your LLC, but they can't get to you.
If you start a cleaning business, do you have to register it as an LLC, or are there a certain amount of money, or is there a certain amount of money generated?
The amount of revenue is independent of whatever thing you form because the formation only depends on tax liability and ownership liability. It has nothing to do with the amount of money you have. And if you turn out to be $1 billion LLC, that's fine. Good for you. The same way with a sole proprietorship. If you end up being $1 billion sole proprietorship, great for you.
Is there any way to write off part of the rent if you're operating your business from home?
Absolutely. The way that works, I'm going to give you business advice, not tax advice, but you can deduct as a business expense your office, your internet, your phone, your mortgage, your homeowner's insurance, your taxes as a percentage of the total floor space. So if I have a 1,000-foot home and I have a 100-foot office, 1/10 of all of my costs of home can be written off as a business expense. So your heating bill, your lighting bill, all the things, you add them all up, and then we take 10% of them as a business expense for your home office. And I would suggest to you that if it's 10 or 12 or 13 or 15%, that's probably reasonable. If it's 90%, I think the IRS would have a problem with that. Like, nah, wait a minute. You can't be using 90% of your house for business unless that's the only place you have business. Right? So I'd just be reasonable. Talk to your tax advisor about that.
Yeah, and along those lines, what are the tax implications of using part of the house as a business when you sell the house?
None whatsoever. The fact that your home office is your dining room table doesn't matter to the new buyer. Or if you used a bedroom as your home office, it's still a 3-bedroom home, as according to the listing. I may move in and want to have 2 offices, one for me and one for my wife, and then a bedroom for the 2 of us. So it really doesn't matter. It has no impact on your ability to sell your business. or sell your home.
Um, Melvin, his question is, how does owning a business affect my VA payment? Melvin, I think probably a mentor is probably going to be able to help you with those questions.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that would be your best line of defense. Get it.
I can send you a link for a mentor with all this information. Next question, can your children be owners or partners of your LLC?
Yes.
And
In
then
fact, it's very common for a husband and wife to be co-owners of their LLC. Very common.
can DBAs only be added under an LLC? Can a sole proprietor have an DBA?
No, because the sole proprietor is doing business as their name. So George Jones has a sole proprietor, and that happens to be the George Jones business. So it doesn't work that way.
Do you have to register your business if you do a 1099 to register for workers' compensation certificate?
If you are a 1099 contractor, you do not have to have a business. The 1099 payer pays you as the 1099 contractor and uses your social security number when it files that 1099. So no, you do not have to have a business. You can be a pure contractor.
Oh, let's see. Thank you, thank you. Customer. What is the process to add a spouse as an owner? Is there a cost associated with adding a spouse as part owner?
If you're a sole proprietor, you would then add her in, you would then become a general partner. If you have an LLC, you would add her in as another member. I don't think either one, there's a cost associated with adding the person in. And again, you would do that on the Secretary of State's website.
Last one I have for the moment, can an LLP add a DBA?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right, we're all caught up.
Okay. All good questions. So after you've done everything above and you've got yourself a business advisor, you should think about having a business plan. What's a business plan? It's a roadmap. Well, the people going from the east to California had a plan. Happened to be in the head of the guide, but they had a plan on how to get there. In a business, in our case, for businesses, it should be a written document. You should keep it up to date and cover what's important to your business. And please don't go to the SCORE template, because that is probably one of the worst templates I've ever seen for a business plan. And it's that because it's designed for one size fits all. So if whatever kind of business you've got, it's got a place in the template for you to put that information. Get yourself a SCORE coach and talk about what's really important in your business, and make sure those are the things that are in your business plan. It's a great communication tool. Why would you need it? Well, if you're going for a loan with a bank, the first question they're going to ask after you sit down is going to say, you have a business plan. If you're having a corporation and you want investors, the first thing they're going to say is, what's your business plan? So it's an important communication tool if money is going to change hands. It's also an important tool to decide if the business makes sense for you. So two examples. First example is Four Sisters. They're just about to ink a deal on buying a restaurant. And before they did it, they thought, well, let's just check with our score advisor to see our score coach if this is a good idea or not. The first question he asks the sisters is, do you have a business plan? And they blank stares all the way around and, what's a business plan? And so the answer was no. So in developing the business plan, they said, well, let's just do it on the back of an envelope first. Let's just make it really, really simple. What are we going to need in terms of food cost? What are we going to need in terms of help, cooks, wait staff, rent for the restaurant that was already there? Just put some numbers together. And as they put the numbers together, it became pretty obvious to the score coach, they were only going to be open 3 days a week. And so he said, you're only open 3 days a week. And they said, yeah, we love to cook, love to be together, but, we only want to be open 3 days a week. Well, when you crank the numbers, and if you've ever seen a restaurant open 3 days a week, I'd like to see it. And as you'd expect, they put the plan together and it didn't work. It was a money loser. So they looked at each other and said, well, let's try 4 days a week. So they did 4 days a week and it still doesn't make money. So they looked at each other and said, well, let's try 5 days a week. So they tried 5 days a week. And now, depending on the week, you might argue it makes a little bit of money. But they're in the conference room and they look at each other and they look at the business plan and they look at each other and they said, we love each other as sisters. We love to cook on weekends and holidays. We love to be in the kitchen. But if we were there 5 days a week, you'd read us on the front page of the newspaper. Restaurant owners shoot each other in the kitchen. So they said, let's not do it. Doesn't mean it was a bad idea. Doesn't mean it couldn't be worked financially, but for personal reasons, they decided not to do it. And that's a perfectly valid reason. But the business plan is a way of doing, kind of planning it on paper, kind of hypothetically running it on paper, modeling it. And if it doesn't make sense, then don't do it. And if you go into business and you have no idea whether it's going to make money or not, then I'd wish you good luck. But if you start losing money after the first couple of weeks, I'm not sure at that point we can help you. So you need a business plan. What's it do? It will pinpoint needs, opportunities, profit margins, all the things that will help you as a small business make a go-do decision. And I will tell you, planning a business on paper is cheap. Opening up a business and see if it works is expensive. So work with your advisor, do a business plan. It doesn't have to be very exotic. It can be, like I said, with the sisters, it was almost the back of an envelope. It was so simple, but it told them exactly what they needed to know. If you're going to the bank for money, that's going to be a little more expensive. And it might have some things in it like defining what your business purpose is. What do you want to do? Back to the very beginning. Is it right for you? And what do you want to do with the business? What's success look like for you? What's it look like in 5 or 10 years? And have you done some research? And start putting your plan together. Start a draft and then review it with your score mentor, score advisor. I would rather somebody came to us with a 20% plan and let's finish it out so they know what their business is, their purpose, and they know what success is. Let's go from there, as opposed to somebody that's got everything they think worked out, but it doesn't. It isn't right for the purpose they intended. So come to us early. Said we're free. I have to tell you, I get a call from a potential client, and he was going to go to a bank for money. And I said, first thing before we even meet, have you got a business plan? He said, oh yeah. I said, well, send it to me. So he sends it to me, and I pop open my email. And at the bottom left-hand corner, it says page 1 of 100. Now, I can't say this with absolute certainty, but I'm pretty doggone sure that you're never going to find a banker to read 100 pages. I'm surprised if they'd read 50. I'd be surprised if they read 25. Every business plan that I've helped people with and we've gotten money for been successful with has been under a dozen pages. So again, we want to tailor that plan to your business and for your needs and what you're trying to accomplish with it. We have a whole webinar on business planning. So as you check out our website, make sure that you attend that webinar. So questions on business plans?
All right. As a LLC business owner, how do you send your clients a W-9 for taxes?
How do I do what?
How do you send your clients a W-9 for taxes?
I'm going to refer that to your accountant. That's a really specific tax question that I'm going to pass on. Let your accountant answer that because they will know your financial position a lot better than I can.
Right. Do you have to register your business if you do a 1099 to register for workers' comp certificate? Did I read that one already?
You do not have to have a business if you're a 1099 contractor. If you're a 1099 contractor, you still, even if you form a corporation, you're still going to need insurance. And whether it's workers' comp or whether it's a private insurance, you're still going to need it. Or you should have it. You don't have to have it, but you should have it.
All right, what else do you guys have? Melvin, I'm going to send you a link to request a SCORE mentor to help you out with that. I don't know. Here's what he says. I'm in Georgia, so the information being presented here is for only in Ohio. I'm very confused. I've been told and heard that I can't have a business as a 100% veteran. Also, what are the limits of how much you can earn dollar-wise per year? Why doesn't the VA help with this? Yeah, these are all very specific questions as a veteran.
Well, I can't believe some of the things that you're saying. I don't think any of that is true. So I would get yourself a SCORE advisor in Georgia. Everything I have told you is conceptually the same in all the states that I've helped people in. Who you register with is sometimes different. How you do it is sometimes different. The way you do it is different, but the concept is the same. And I'm pretty sure that no state restricts veterans. Now, the question about is the VA going to help? I can't answer that one. I have no idea whether they will, but I can promise you if you get a SCORE advisor, they'll help you.
All right, any other questions? I think we're caught up.
Okay. Let's talk about the financials. Let's talk about money here. So if you want to finance your business, how do you do that? And I've got here the good, the bad, and the ugly because I want to talk about all of them. Number one, if you have personal money, that is by far the easiest way to start your business because it's your money. You can do whatever you want with it. There's no business plan involved. You can do that. I would never, though, recommend you taking money out of your IRA to do that. And I would never recommend your personal savings that you take more than a third to start your business. So that's my recommendation. Other people may or may not follow that advice. Home equity line of credit, bad idea. Bad idea. Because if something, heaven's sakes, I hope it doesn't, your business fails, now you don't have a business, you don't have a job, you don't have a home. So you don't want to do that. That's a very bad idea. It's even worse, I think, than taking money out of your IRA. If you can get a cosigner, family member, that's a great deal. Sometimes that just is enough. The combined assets of the two people is enough to get you over the top. You can get a loan from the 3 F's, family, friends, or fools. That's even better. I'm sure you've heard the story of Uncle George. lent him $1,000, and now he's a millionaire. So that's a great way to do it. It's much more friendly, less red tape, and Uncle George may not even want the money back. How about a credit card? That, if all of the things you could borrow money against, is probably the worst, because the interest rates on credit cards are through the roof. When we had an individual come to us, they were $60,000 in credit card debt, and the cheapest interest rates on those cards was 25%. So a fourth of $60,000 sounds to me like about $15,000 in interest every year. That's a huge burden. That's a huge hole to try to dig out of. So please, please do not use your credit cards to finance your business. Now, if you want to buy goods that you're going to sell and you pay it back every month, I'm fine conceptually with that idea. But if you're using it to, in this individual's case, he was using it to repair his vehicle. So he couldn't pay it back every month because he didn't have enough profit to do that, but he needed the vehicle to stay in business. Bank financing, I really like bank financing. Next to personal savings, it's really the best because it's other people's money. And so I like that a lot. I'm a big fan of other people's money. If you're going to the bank for money, what do they look for? Well, first thing they're going to ask for is, what's your business plan? They're going to want to know about your personal financial status. So they'd be prepared to give them the last 2 or 3 years of tax returns. They will check your credit score, and they will look at what other debts you have compared to what kind of equity or assets you have. And they will look at that debt to equity ratio. If you have $10,000 in equity and you have $9,000 in debt, I would say good luck. If you've got $10,000 in assets and $100 in debt, that's pretty good. You'd be in pretty good shape. They're going to also want to know how much down payment you're going to put in. How much skin in the game are you going to put in? And the last couple of deals that I've seen have been 20%. The bank wants 20% down of your own money. So you have some skin in the game. If you ever bought a house, you need a down payment on a house. And when people get in trouble, they don't put a down payment down. And I think that's what happened in 08 with the housing crisis. There was a lot of loans that should never have been made. Exit soapbox. So those are the things the banker's going to look for. So make sure that you've got your advisor helping you through that. So when you walk in the front door of the bank, you're ready to be financed. Know your costs. In terms of the money, you've got to understand what your costs are. I said earlier that one reason that businesses go out of business is they run out of money. Why do they run out of money? Well, they don't understand their costs. And apparently the costs cost more than the amount of money they're bringing in. So when you run out of money, you're out of business. So make sure that you think about all your costs: startup costs, operating costs, salaries and benefits, cost of stuff you're going to buy to run your business, if you're going to buy stuff and sell it. So just make sure you understand all your costs. Cash is king, because if you're out of cash, you're out of business. If you think about the blood that surges through a business, the blood flow is money. So if you can't control that flow for whatever reason, I'd say you're potentially in trouble. So what's one way to manage that? One way is to look on a regular basis at your cash. How much cash do I have? And if you and I were working together and you're starting up your business, one of the first questions we would talk through in our meeting every month is, how much cash do you have? So the question is, what constitutes cash? Cash is the sum of three things. And what we're going to do is, we're not going to look at those three things when we get together. We're going to look at your cash. So if the cash you have is going up, that's good. If it's going flat, it's probably okay. If it's going down, now I get really worried. If we're cash is going down for the last 2 or 3 months, that's not good. So what do we look at? What's the first thing we look at? If we're happy with it or not happy with it, we look at the cash in the bank. If cash in the bank is going up, that's good. If it's flat, that might be okay. It depends. But if it's going down, so I started my business with, I don't know, $1,000, and first month it's $950, and then it's $900, and then it's $800, and then it's $750. That's a problem. We need to talk about what's going on here. So in terms of accounts receivable, that's money that people owe you. So if you're selling things and you're not taking cash or credit, and you're holding the receivable, the money that people owe you, you're financing them, then we got to look at that. If we look at that and it's going up, you are giving more and more credit to more and more people. That could be okay. Maybe your business is growing. So I'm not quite sure, but we'd have to ask that question. If it's flat, that's probably okay. Same as it was last month. And if it's going down, that means more people are paying their bills. If it's going up, it could be that there's some people aren't paying their bills. And my worst story is back in the housing crunch days. One of my clients was a lumberyard, and he was selling to home builders. And it was really good because they'd come in and buy stuff for the house. He'd put it on credit. When they sold the house, they'd pay him back plus interest. So he was making money on his money. So that seemed like a pretty good idea. But in 2008, with the housing crunch, he had $30,000 in accounts receivable, and every one of the contractors went out of business. Stuck him with a $30,000 hole. You got to sell a lot of stuff because that 30,000 isn't in gross sales. That comes out of the profit. You got to make 30,000 in profit to pay that back. He barely squeaked through and got out the other side. And he did that with the help of some family members that got him through that. So we want to watch that. Then accounts payable are money that you owe. Now you say, well, I don't owe any money. Well, if you have bought goods or whatever with your credit card, yes, you have an accounts payable because at the end of the month, you got to pay off the credit card. Or maybe you've got a supplier that will send you the stuff, but not bill you till the end of the month. So that's an accounts payable. So what do we look at? We say, well, if accounts payable is going up, that's not so sure. If your business is growing and your payables are going up proportionally with your growth, well, that's probably okay. If it's flat, that's probably okay. And if it's going down, which means you have less and less money you owe other people, that's certainly a good thing. So cash is king. That's critical to managing your business. Questions on money?
Let's see. Are there any resources that list the available micro lenders or grant programs for business startups?
Oh, I wish there were, but because they come and go so quickly, programs come, cities, states, municipalities get money, it's gone. They no longer have it. It comes and goes so quickly. It's really difficult for our organization or anybody to maintain that kind of a list. I think the best thing to do is do your research at the time you are looking for that micro loan or that grant money, and see what's out there at the time that you want it. Because if you do that and 6 months later, you may find it's not there anymore. That happened to a lot of people back in the COVID days when there was the PPP loans for payroll protection. And they ran out of money. And so the people that didn't get in, there wasn't any more money. It was gone. They couldn't get into that. So you look at the time you need it, take advantage of it, have your business plan ready, and go.
Do you have any suggestions on must-haves or things to look out for when opening your first bank account, first business bank account?
No, any bank will give you a business bank account. Uh, you might want to look at fees that they charge. So some are very happy to have your money, and they'll keep your money and give it back if you need it for, but not pay you any interest. And for me, that's a reasonable exchange. They hold my money, they don't charge me any fees, uh, but I don't get any interest. There are banks that will you need to watch if you deposit cash. So if you're a cash business and you want to put that in the bank, uh, there may be limits on how much cash you can deposit in any one month. There may be limits on how much that can be in coin. Some banks don't even take coin anymore. Uh, Maybe restrictions on if they do take coins, it have to be wrapped and marked with your. The one bank that I've dealt with, you have to wrap it up and put your account number on the coins, on the wrapped coins, and it will then be deposited in that account. So if they count the coins and find out it's miscounted, they just take the money back out of your account. It's pretty unforgiving. So what should I look for? Look for fees. Uh, their charges on my business account. Look at what volume of transactions I'm allowed to have before they start charging me additional fees. And look to see what happens if I'm a cash business. Also, you might want to consider if they will give you a business credit card bolted to that business checking account. Some banks will, some banks won't. So that might be helpful in some cases. Rather than carrying a bunch of cash around, you can, you're down at Office Depot, Home Depot, you need some pencils and a pad of paper and some other stuff, and you put it on the credit card and you pay it off at the end of the month. And now you've got a permanent record of it in your bank statement. So that's what I'd watch out for.
What are the requirements for getting business line of credit or credit card so you don't have to use your personal credit?
Uh, every bank is different. Uh, what I would do is go down to my local bank, said, here's what I'm doing. I'd like a revolving line of credit, or I'd like some credit limit on my credit card. If you're going to finance your business with your credit card, I wouldn't do that. If you're going to use it for and then pay it off, I'd be okay with that. So it's every bank is different. So find one you have a relationship with that you already have accounts with, and they'll be more friendly to you than if you just walk in cold.
Okay, I'm having a little trouble understanding the difference between accounts receivable and accounts payable. Can you please give more examples?
Well, accounts receivable, that's the key word, is money you're receiving. You haven't got it yet, but you're receiving it. You will eventually receive it. Payables are the key word is payable. That is money that you have to pay that you haven't yet paid. So those two accounts, two things are money that is coming in that you haven't got yet, and money going out that you haven't paid yet. So that's the fundamental difference. So an example of accounts payable is you put money on your credit card. You now owe that money. You haven't paid it yet, but you still owe that. So that's an account payable. And accounts receivable is money that somebody owes you, but again hasn't paid yet. So you do the work, you send them an invoice. They haven't paid you yet. You've done the work. So you have money coming in, it's going to be received, but because you send them an invoice and they haven't paid it yet, that's an accounts receivable.
Are there grants available for LLCs or are grants only for nonprofit?
There are for startup, they're very, very rare. And as you would expect, they're incredibly competitive. Uh, but there have been, I don't know of any currently, but again, when you're ready for that, you get your business plan done, I would start doing my search to find out what is available.
Let's see. Do you need, do you need a Dun and Bradstreet account? Is it necessary?
You do not, it is not necessary. There was a time when that was an important thing to have, but in today's market, that's not required, not necessary. And I said I've had my 4 businesses and nobody's ever asked for one.
All right, any other questions? I think we're all caught up, Al.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time. Everyone, you will get an email from me later today, tomorrow. I will include a link for you guys if you want to get a score mentor. Include that with the slides and the video. All right, Al, thank you so much for all your advice today.
Okay. Take care, everybody.
All right, thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.